Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Making the Case. Welcome to all of you who are joining us on Facebook Live, and those of you who are joining us on MTV in Guyana, and those who are overseas. We had an extended weekend, and I trust that it was an enjoyable and peaceful one for all of you. On tonight's program, it's just me and you, the viewers, and I will be allowing more time tonight to take your calls and to have you share your opinions on the current political situation. But before I do so, let me just recap where we are right now since the ruling of the CCJ on June 18 of this year. So, the CCJ ruled, as you know, that the no confidence motion was validly passed and elections should have been held by March 21, 2019, therefore rendering our government illegal since March 21st. The court also ruled that the appointment of the GCOM chairman was unconstitutional and therefore illegal. The court encouraged the president and the leader of the opposition in their ruling to find consensus on a way forward for Guyana before the 24th of June. This was on the 18th of June when they wanted the leader of the opposition and the president to meet to decide on the way forward before they hand down the consequential orders that were due on the 24th. Now, Stanley Marcus, which is the attorney for GCOM, submitted to the judges that the leader of the opposition and the president did not have the opportunity to meet. And if you recall, the attorney general even lied to the court, claiming that the president was waiting on a reply from the opposition leader, knowing fully well that the letter that was sent from Mr. Harman to Madam Gail Teixeira, the letter said that the invitation was to meet the leader of the opposition after the 24th of June, meaning after the consequential orders were given. Mind you, up to this time, the GCOM chairman had still not resigned, even though the court had ruled since the 18th that his appointment was unconstitutional. The court, in another attempt to have our leaders meet and decide the fate of Guyana moving forward, postponed their ruling to July 12th, so as to give another opportunity to our leaders to meet. The opposition has since responded through Ms. Gail Teixeira. She wrote to Mr. Harman indicating that the leader of the opposition is ready to meet at any time and on a daily basis, if necessary, on the appointment of the new GCOM chairman. Mr. Granger, up to this time, this was since early last week, has still not set a meeting, even though written submissions have already been made to the court regarding the consequential orders. The deadline for the written submissions was yesterday. Instead, we have a new development, and you know, when I tell people about the contents of Mr. Harman's response to Ms. Gail Teixeira concerning meeting, many people think I'm making this up because it's so ludicrous. Mr. Harman wrote to Ms. Gail Teixeira, informing her that based on their interpretation of the CCJ's ruling, that Mr. Granger has a list of 6 names he would like to submit. So tell me something. Who is supposed to be the president and who is the leader of the opposition? Is Mr. Granger going to submit a list to Mr. Jagdeo? Is Mr. Jagdeo choosing the next GCOM chairman? How is this government so confused? Something here is clearly amiss, and if this is the government's interpretation of the ruling of the court, this is nothing short of madness. Let me remind you of what Article 161(2) says. I'm paraphrasing. The chairman of the Elections Commission shall be a person who holds or who has held office as a judge or who is qualified to be appointed as any such judge or any other fit and proper person to be appointed by the president from a list of 6 persons not unacceptable to the president, submitted by the leader of the opposition after meaningful consultation with the non-governmental political parties represented in the National Assembly. That is as clear as day. There is no room for interpretation where Article 161(2) is related. The opposition leader has even indicated that he is willing to go so far as to select a foreigner to serve as chairman. Someone who is completely impartial and independent and insulated from our politics, our local politics here in Guyana, if that is the concern of Mr. Granger. Why is this as well? Why is even this a problem? The problem, as we all are fully aware, is that Mr. Granger never intended, nor is it his intention, CCJ ruling or no CCJ, to select a chairman through a consensual process with the leader of the opposition. He still wants to unilaterally select the chairperson so that that person can work on behalf of the government, to delay the calling of elections, to go to house registration, even though it is completely unnecessary and nothing more than a delaying tactic. Said so by their own legal advisor. If you recall the advice given by Excellence Dazzle, the legal advisor to GCOM, in her opinion, that house-to-house registration is completely unnecessary. They do not want a free and fair election. They do not want a free and independent person at the Elections Commission. And that speaks volumes. And that should make us all worried as Guyanese. When it comes to setting the earliest or any date at all for elections, the goalpost keeps shifting with this administration. Last year, December, we heard the PRO for GCOM say that GCOM is ready to hold elections. Then we were informed that GCOM would be ready by November of 2019. And then if you remember the submissions given to the CCJ by the attorney, December 25th, 2019 is the new date. So every time you ask them the question about when GCOM will be ready for elections, the goalpost keeps shifting. I want you to listen for yourself the proceedings regarding the setting of the date before the CCJ, in which the judges were insisting that elections should have been held by March 21, and they were pressing the GCOM attorney for a date outside of that. Have a look at this clip and join me back.
All of these acts of parliament are subsidiary to the Constitution, and if they are inconsistent, if operationalizing them is inconsistent with the terms of the Constitution, then it is the latter that must prevail.
Well, Lord, with that proposition of law, I entirely agree, but I disagree that the acts are inconsistent with the Constitution. I suppose it suits the opposition to put a very rigid construction on Section 160, subsection 7, Article 160, subsection 7 of the Constitution. My respectful submission, and I'm prepared to demonstrate that to the court if the court is willing, is that the provision that says the elections must be held within 3 months is directory. It is not compulsory. I propose, if necessary, to refer to the learned authors of Benyon on the interpretation of statutes, which demonstrate to you that there are provisions that are mandatory in one sense, but directory in the other sense of time in particular. And
Okay. Is GCOM able to bind itself, the relevant parties, to a particular outside date?
Realistically, my lord, my honors, no. If I may be permitted to say, you see, GCOM has not been involved in this matter from the commencement, and you do not have all the relevant evidence before you. But I can tell you that from my instructions, GCOM has engaged over 9,000 persons in the field on the operation and has already spent $724 million in the operation. And any other process is going to be longer than the operation in progress. Any other is going to be longer than the operation in progress.
But I'm not sure maybe you're getting there, but I'm not sure I've answered the President's question. He's asking for an outside date.
An outside date?
Yes.
From my consultations, putting everything into place and complying with all the provisions that are necessary, a list will be ready by the 25th of December, December 25.
So
Elections to be held anytime after that.
That's a rather unique date, December 25th.
December 25th.
Yes. So you're hoping to provide a Merry Christmas to the electorate of Guyana?
Mr. Marcus, this is disappointing because, as Mr. Mendes says, the Constitution suggests that these elections should have been held sometime in March.
Yes, my lord.
So that you are suggesting an outside date that carries us down 9 more months.
But my lords, if I may be permitted to say, first of all, the elections were not held in March because...
No, I know they weren't held in March. I know, and we're not
about to deal with
that.
why. I was about to deal with why.
So there you heard the judges pressing Stanley Marcus for a date, and him giving a rather unique date, December 21. The word directory, you heard the attorney saying that the provision, I mean, it's so hard for me to even repeat. The provisions of our Constitution are directory. This is a new bandwagon that I've heard over the past 24 hours. We heard the Prime Minister saying the same thing, that the CCJ's ruling is advisory. I mean, come on, who are these people talking to? Since when is the ruling of a court advisory? If someone commits a crime and they're sentenced to jail time, are you advised to go to prison? Should you then walk out and say that, oh, this is just advisory, I don't have to comply? Since when you don't have to comply with the decision of a court? Is Mr. Granger and his government above the law? Is this the road we want to go down as Guyanese? Is this the precedent that we want to set? With all the negativity thrown at the CCJ from this administration, let me remind you that this is the same CCJ, this is the same court that ruled against the opposition in the third term case. What if the leader of the opposition decides that he's not going to adhere to the CCJ and he's going to run for a third term? Are they ready to deal with that? Is the government ready to deal with a scenario like that? We wouldn't do that. The leader of the opposition wouldn't do that. We respect the courts and we respect the judges and their ruling. And we said that in public, and so did the government before the decision of the CCJ, that we will all respect the ruling of the CCJ. But I know it suits this government to only to be selective in which rulings they adhere to and which ones they don't. They didn't adhere to the Chief Justice's ruling in the High Court when she ruled the same way the CCJ did, that the no confidence motion was validly passed. They didn't obey that. They continued on with business as usual. But when the Court of Appeal ruled in their favor, they fully endorsed that decision and carried on as though they were legal again because they got a new lease on life. And so they went on to do all sorts of things that are now illegal because the CCJ has the final say in the matter. So this kind of duplicity is what we keep talking about with this administration. Now, I've made a point before on this program and several times that 90 days or 3 months is not unusual for the calling and holding of elections. In 2015, this was the case, and elections were held in 71 days. And the court is fully aware of what took place in 2015. And I have another clip where the judges spoke to that. So let us watch this clip and meet me back here.
So the parliament that commenced in 2011, that did not run its 5-year course. It was interrupted because the president dissolved that parliament at some point. The elections then were held within a certain number of days, weren't they?
Ordinarily,
90 days.
ordinarily, the elections in this case would have been held around March to May next year. And the commission, in anticipation of that, had proceeded on that basis.
No, but this is my point. The commission, I don't want to say negligent, you know. The commission ought always to be on standby that the president of his own deliberate motion or upon a motion of confidence which his list loses renders his government no more. The commission ought always to be on standby that that likelihood could occur. And if and when that likelihood occurs, it is a little strange that the commission could be saying, well, we wouldn't be ready for 90 days. We might be ready for maybe 9 months, maybe a year, and leave the country in limbo for that period of time.
With respect, my lord, the country would not be left in limbo. There is a construction of 1067, with which I do not agree. The construction the provision does not say that the government is a caretaker government, or it does not function. It expressly says the government shall continue in office. And I understand that to mean in its literal meaning, the government stays until it goes. That is what 1067 says.
Yeah, but 3 months also has a literal meaning.
Pardon me, my lord?
3 months has also a literal meaning. So we can't just say, okay, well, this I read with a literal meaning, and this I read in a broad sense. There must be some certainty under any constitution. I'm not just talking about Guyana, and I'm not saying that the court is saying that it is a caretaker, but this is normally the case. And under many constitutions, if there is a motion of no confidence and the government has to step down, they will remain, but they will remain as a caretaker government. That is quite normal all over the world. Now, it doesn't say, the Constitution doesn't say so with so many words, but it says with so many words that there will be elections within 3 months.
It also says that the cabinet shall resign.
No, that is 107. That is not 106. That is Article 107.
No, that's 106.
It's 106, not 107. But if you were to...
One moment, please, madam. The president.
106.6 speaks about resign.
Yeah.
6, the cabinet includes the president shall resign if the government is defeated.
Yeah.
That's 6.
And then 7
But
speaks
7
about
is
remain.
notwithstanding its defeat. Notwithstanding its defeat, the government shall remain in office
And shall
and
hold
shall
elections.
hold an election within 3 months, as I've
That's exactly what it says.
In terms of what we're here for now, though, can you reasonably resist the suggestion from Council Mendes that the appropriate order we should give should be in the terms of 1067.
And that the court would impose 3 months.
No, we're not imposing anything. Our remit, we're not involved in politics. Our remit is to uphold this document.
Yes, Lord.
And if it has a clear provision, then what do you want us to do? To ignore it? To reject it? To rewrite it?
Welcome back. There you saw Justice Saunders, the president of the CCJ, getting visibly upset with the attorney for GCOM, saying that the government is no more. And also saying that what would you like us to do with this constitution? Should we reject it? Do we rewrite it? What would you have us do with it? The constitution is the supreme law of the land. And if we cannot adhere to the constitution, then, you know, where are we going as a nation? The court also made the point that all of the laws of this country are subsidiary to the Constitution, and therefore nothing overrides it. So we must apply a literal meaning to the Constitution, and we must abide by it. And the defense that is being used by the APNU AFC supporters and apologists, in terms not only in terms of their violation of the Constitution and refusal to call elections, but in justifying the corrupt activities of this administration by pointing the finger at the PPPC. This is not helpful to any political discourse, any mature political discourse. If there is evidence of corruption by members of my party, prosecute them. Don't just charge them and parade them in front of the court, as has been done in the past by this administration when they took office. They took office with vengeance and rushed to charge people, and 50 audits later, no prosecution of any of the members of the PPP. But this rhetoric that the PPP did so, or the PPP were corrupt, so what if the coalition government is, you know, I thought the coalition government was elected based on their promises to eliminate corruption, cronyism, and nepotism. I thought we wanted a more transparent and accountable government. I thought we wanted better for ourselves and for Guyana. I thought we reached the point where, as a mature electorate, to not buy into the excuses of our leaders when they fail to deliver on their promises, and when they outright lie to us and flagrantly violate our Constitution. What we have instead is coalition supporters defending the wrongdoings of the government. This is not good for our politics, and it is a dangerous precedent. Imagine a situation when the PPP is elected to government in the next election, and their defense to corruption is, well, the APNU AFC were more corrupt. So what? Is this what we're going to keep doing, pointing the fingers at one another without demanding more, without demanding better? We're never going to grow as a nation if this is what we continue to do, and if we continue to defend politicians. Would the coalition supporters accept this excuse from the PPP supporters? Would PPP supporters be justified in saying so? I think not, and I wouldn't stand for that. Corruption aside, the APNU AFC coalition is dangerous because they are blatantly preventing us from going to elections, as mandated by the Constitution. When a government reaches the point of threatening free and fair elections, It is time for all Guyanese of all ethnicities and all political convictions to stand up in defense of the laws of our land, to stand up in defense of our Constitution, not to defend political parties or take sides. If you cannot stand up for our democratic right to vote, you have no ground or no right to criticize anything else. This is not a PPP fight. I keep saying that over and over again. This is not the fight that the PPP alone has to take to this coalition government. It affects all Guyanese. It is our right to go to the polls, whether you agree with the no confidence motion or not, or even if you are a APNU AFC supporter. A no confidence motion was validly passed in the National Assembly, and elections are due in this country. If you want to go back and vote for the APNU AFC coalition, that's up to you. But the fact remains that the elections are due. And demanding that the government obeys the Constitution and the ruling of the court does not make you a PPP supporter. It makes you a good citizen. It makes you a good Guyanese. It makes you a patriot. And what about Mr. Granger? They say he doesn't know what's going on. I mean, they're all the excuses. The list is endless. He doesn't know what's going on. That's another excuse. Mr. Granger cannot be separated from his government. He is ultimately responsible. If he doesn't know what's going on in his cabinet or in his government and with the corrupt activities that are going on, then he's incompetent. And if he does know, then he's complicit. Let's call it what it is. So we're not going to accept the explanations of the APNU AFC apologists. You know, they like to say Mr. Granger's a praying man, he's a compassionate man. That's all good and well. But what about his actions? What about his refusal to call elections? What about his refusal to meet the leader of the opposition in good faith, as encouraged by the CCJ? Where is the dialogue? Where is the healing for Guyana? This is what the court wants. The court wants our leaders to meet and decide on the way forward. This ruling by the court wasn't an easy one. Having the court involved in this type of case, in this type of ruling, is not easy. You can see that the court is threading carefully because they want to make the right decision and they don't want to disenfranchise the electorate of Guyana. So they're threading carefully. And this is why they are encouraging our politicians to meet and for them to find consensus on the way forward for Guyana. They don't want to have to impose elections. So, you know, if Mr. Granger is as good a person as his supporters think that he is, meet with the leader of the opposition and let's decide on the next GCOM chair. Let's decide on a date for elections. Because we know that house-to-house registration is unnecessary. I'm going to be preparing to take your calls so you can let those start coming through. We know that house-to-house is unnecessary. After a date for elections is set, there will be a claims and objection period where the list will be updated and all of those young people who are not on the list, and I know there are not many, they can get on the list. You can change your address if you moved. Don't be fooled. All of these things can be done in a few weeks' time and elections can be held. This has happened every election. This election is no different. I'm going to take some calls now, and let's hear from our viewers. Caller, good evening. Hello? Hello? I think we missed that caller. You know, and what is the fear of calling elections? The government has been boasting about this new poll, a poll that was done, and Mr. Granger enjoys what is it, 90 something, 97% favorability rating. I mean, if any president has ratings like that, he should be happy to go to the polls. What is the fear in calling the elections? Caller, good evening.
Hi, good night, Mrs. Rodrigues. How are you tonight?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
You know, what I wanted to say, if Mr. Marcus is the best lawyer Jacob can get, I can't imagine who was going to be the worst. Because looking at him and what he's saying and defending the Jacob situation, every and anybody can be a lawyer if he's a lawyer. And the thing is, it's so disgraceful and so embarrassing. And I can imagine maybe this decision, the judge is probably laughing at us and probably saying if he's representing Guy, I don't want him to represent me.
Yes.
If he's representing Guyanese, imagine how stupid Guyanese are. Thank you.
But, okay, thank you. But you know, caller, when you're given a case to argue, like the one Marcus is given to argue, I don't think even the smartest person in the world would sound stupid with that argument. Just like the 34 is the majority argument. No matter how intelligent an attorney is, an argument like that, an idiotic argument like that, nobody can make that sound intelligent. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good night, Susan. I
Good night.
just want to let us take a little scrutinizing of Mr. Marcus and his appointment by GCOM. GCOM has a mandate, right?
Yes.
That is controlled by the Secretariat. Is that mandate is supposed to be in harmony with the Constitution?
GCOM gets its authority from the Constitution.
Right. Is not supposed to be in line with the Constitution?
Yes.
Right. So how is it Mr. Marcus is going to the CCJ and argue against the Constitution? Everything the Constitution says, he knows it can't happen. He is arguing a case that is not aligned with the Constitution.
Well, that's the point the president of the court was making, that the Constitution is any other law is subsidiary to the Constitution.
Yeah, but if he is appointed by GCOM, his arguments is supposed to be for the Constitution, in alignment with it. He is arguing a case against the Constitution. He knows that nothing that is written in the Constitution cannot be done. You listen to him? He is actually arguing a case similar to the Apno case. So like he was given a directive from this Secretariat that is not in sync with their mandate.
Right.
Correct?
That's right.
Right, so let's go a little further. What was his directive? His directive is not in keeping with the mandate of GCOM, because GCOM is supposed to be aligned with the Constitution. GCOM's mandate has to be aligned with the Constitution.
His directive is one thing. We have to delay elections. They're all getting the same instruction. Delay. Find any argument that delays the calling of elections.
No, his directive seems to me, right, that whatever that goes contrary to the Constitution, that is the right way to go. Thanks for that.
All right, caller. Thank you. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, pleasant good evening, Susan. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, a point I always wanted to make open. Since this no confidence motion is due occurred, right? It changed everything.
Yes.
Right? To make things more understandable, the whole country went in something that I would say is a state of emergency. So you don't, I don't think, from my view, I don't think house registration and all these rigmaroles was required. Because from the time you get into a situation of no confidence motion when a government
falls.
Right, it falls. There is absolutely nothing else that should have been done or can be done except go right away.
Right.
The poll. The country is in a state of emergency because it clearly shows that current so-called government is null and void.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the Justice Saunders said so. You know, you are leaving the country in limbo. What about what is going on with our economy right now? You know, I go around and I talk to business people. You know, I meet with all sorts of people from all kinds of backgrounds, foreigners who are visiting, who want to invest in Guyana. This is such a crucial time in our country, you know, where things should be booming. We should be excited about 2020 and first oil, and people should be spending money and investing and buying property, and construction should be booming. Instead, here we are fighting over elections. No confidence motion was passed since 2018. We are now in the 7th month of the new year, and we still don't have a date for elections. Where is the concern for Guyana? Where is the concern for Guyanese? We have to take this country forward. Right now we're stagnated, and if we're stagnated and the rest of the world is moving forward, then we are moving backward. So where is the concern? Where is the concern for Guyana? Nobody's concerned about it. The government is not concerned about Guyana, because if they were, they would want to move Guyana forward. Instead, we're just stuck in this position, giving them as much time as they want to fill their pockets, to finish doing what they want to do until elections. Caller, good evening.
Hi, Susan. Good night.
Good night.
I think that this whole thing is a big joke. And these people are fooling the Guyanese people, because there was no confidence motion called in December last year.
Yes.
I mean, she comes supposed already for a long time.
Yes.
You know, if the court had do the case and all these things happen, they're supposed to prepare a land. Not now you're preparing how much 1,000 people for go and like what the lawyers say, you know what I mean? So they just fool the people all the time, and it's a big joke, and the government doesn't care about Guyanese and young people at work and who live or who.
No.
They give us nothing. They just care about themselves.
Yes.
And I have no apology about that. They just care about themselves. Right?
Yes, thanks. You know, and they actually think that people are buying into this. No, nobody's buying into this. And you know, I don't want the citizens of this country to be fooled. When you see people going and protest for house-to-house registration, this is a gimmick, people. This is nothing but a gimmick. People are making themselves absolute fools. This is real silly season that we are in, taking to the streets, a government protesting itself for house-to-house registration. Who are they fooling? They're not fooling Guyanese. Guyanese are fully aware that house-to-house registration is completely unnecessary. Caller, good evening. I think we missed that caller. So, you know, people might find it strange. You see people in the streets protesting, and you might think, you might want to think that they have a reason to be out there, that they have a cause to be out there. But no, it's just a gimmick. It's just a ploy. Caller, good evening.
Good evening, Susan.
Good evening.
You know, we speak of emancipation. We celebrate emancipation in Guyana, right? But Guyanese need to emancipate their minds so that they can be able to decipher the facts from truth.
Yes.
See, because what Mr. Marcus said, who could decipher that? Is there any truth in that? Some Guyanese need to open their minds. But then a few of us can't do all of it. We have to call on the masses. So open your mind. Don't look at the party.
Right.
Open your mind and see what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's all my contribution.
Yes, thank you, caller. And that is my appeal to the viewers. Every week I come here to think rationally, to think reasonably, to think with basic common sense. We know what has to take place now. We know that a motion of no confidence was passed, and we know that we have to go to elections, and we know that this government has failed to deliver. We know that many, many people were disappointed in this administration, and they are ready to put them out. They know it too. And that is their fear in going to elections, because they know that they have let down the people of this country. The corruption stinks. The Norton saga with the drug bond, the Cathy Hughes saga, awarding contracts to herself and claiming there is no conflict of interest. The Ministry of Public Health scandal in bypassing procurement laws. Valerie Patterson awarding her husband contracts. I mean, we could go on and on. David Patterson and the Demerara Harbor Bridge feasibility study, the airport project. All of these things, we can go on and on. So who is still to file charges in that case? And that the findings of the Public Procurement Commission in that case is an indictment of the entire cabinet, because the cabinet allowed him to do that, to sole source the company, to do that feasibility study. The broom scandal. Minister, just allocating monies to her children to the tune of $20 million. And then they come out in support of this and very confidently tell the people of Guyana, oh, this is for a scholarship. What about the University of Guyana students who are struggling to pay their loans, who are struggling to pay their fees because, fees have gone up so much since 2015. Some 200% or something like that. All the fees at UG have gone up. And there's been no better facilities at the university. But we have a new vice chancellor building. The vice chancellor is now in his own building. He doesn't need an office. He needed an entire building. A spanking new building where his office is. He needed an entire building. And the minister and the Mr. Harman can proudly say that Minister Broom's children were given that money for scholarship. What about the ordinary citizens in this country? That is so painful for Guyanese to swallow. That is a bitter, bitter pill for Guyanese to swallow. The land allocations, 57,000 unprocessed land applications, but people are given thousands of acres. You have any idea what thousands of acres of land looks like? I don't. I can't envision it. The city mall, Giftland Mall is on 4.5 acres or thereabouts. So I 4.5. So I don't know what 2,000 acres of land looks like. Caller, good evening. Hello?
Hello, good night. I can appreciate what you are saying. What you see, Guyana has two major races, and whether it's one or the other, it's a human problem, a human predicament. I think the nation should try prayers. They should try turning to something higher force. In Europe, we have time to time a saint. When come to Europe, we have Saint Therese, Saint Catherine, and they bring blessings. What we have is that human beings have proposals. We have great human beings among people and bad human beings. Sometimes you have all these proposals are coming from the good level, from the bright side. But then when you see reality, you go down to the lower region. The mine has two components, the higher level and the lower. When you see the lower side in any race, it's the same thing. Right minority is there for good people. I think what you need is prayers. The country needs to be nation building. People should be rewarded for good deeds, heroism, honesty, truthfulness, hard work, courage. These are things that help to build a nation. Long ago, they used to give people rewards for these things. If you don't promote these things, your society will decline, everything will go down.
Okay, caller. Thank you. Well, I appreciate what the caller is saying, but people need to act. we don't just sit by. Prayers are all well and good. But we cannot just sit by and wait for divine intervention while APNU AFC empties the treasury and give out all of the lands in Guyana while the poor continue to wait for their time. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good night, Susan.
Good night.
This government is doing everything. You run in this country like nothing happened. That was not no confidence position pass. And the president knows exactly everything we do. It's a big question on this way behavior. Everybody lose confidence for the president. And he himself instructing the cabinet what to do. The cabinet cannot instruct you what to do. It's the instruct the cabinet. And it's embarrassing and shameful for the government all around the country. And the racist start in Georgetown already. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Colin. I said on this program too that I don't think that we will return to the racism and the violence that we saw in the past. And, sometimes I look at the rhetoric on Facebook and so on, and I get scared, and I get scared for Guyana because I remember saying that I hope we don't return to that, and then I see some evidence of that. But I am still hoping that we can be mature enough to get past this period. Caller, good evening.
Very good night to you, Madam Susan.
Good night, sir.
You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And you're a beautiful and a charming young lady.
Thank you very much.
I have seen Guyana now moving into a cowboy state where them fellas don't have no regard for constitution and law.
Yes.
And then you got to expect cowboy business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have now. Now, in relation to Marcos, what arrangement was the commission or has the commission made to appoint him? Or was he appointed by somebody else and given instructions, specific instructions to go to the PCC?
Well, it would seem so.
Because as far as I have seen, if there is an issue between a rat and a crapaud, I don't think the crapaud or the rat would use him to defend them or to look after their interests. Now, I would like to see that if there's a change of government, that the Constitution is being looked at in its totality and you have it overhauled.
Right.
And then we have to look now at where we are going to go, because it doesn't seem as though there would be any change in the government. They will find a way to take another term.
Well, this is why we have to keep fighting, caller, and this is the danger that we face.
Well, electorate may not decide that. It would be dictatorship.
But, we have had some hope. We saw what pressure did to the last GCOM chairman, and he has left. That has given us some hope that, or some evidence that some pressure can make a difference. And let's hope that we can keep this pressure up as well.
Would it come strange to you that they play a game to go into another 5 years?
I know that they're going to try. We know that they will try. They're not going to hand over power like that, like how the PPP peacefully transitioned power in 2015. We know that they're not going to do that, and this is why we know we have an uphill battle.
They have the fitness of power and money, man.
Yes. All right, caller. Thank you. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good evening. The speaker come for this try and break. The speaker bully. Everybody seeing 3/4 of this country seeing it already. So they can't fool nobody now. Good night.
Right, okay, thank you, caller. And that is what we need. We need the citizens of this country to realize And they need not only to recognize the lies peddled by this administration, but we need them to turn out, we need them to vote, and to get rid of them. Their time is up. And this rhetoric that, they can't fix everything in 4 years or 1 term and they need more time. More time to do what? We don't need more time to see what this administration is capable of. I saw it in the first 6 months. The first thing they did was raise their own salaries. That's the evidence. Actions speak louder than words, followed by all this corruption. I don't need to see anything else. I don't think the electorate of this country needs to see anything else. Caller, good evening.
I get one complaint to give.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, I get one complaint to give. We get Clanbrook Primary School have 3 bridges. The bridge them, all the voter did read on it. I call in the council, the chairman and the vice chairman. I said, I get 3 bridges here, and students got walk a little children, because it's a primary school. And yes, then come and see to it. Now they say I get money. Mr. Man, Clanbrook pay the amount of tax. And into 3 years, some of tax Clanbrook pay from the back dam land to the house tax and land tax too. And they can't say that they get money. So we say Clanbrook tax money go. You not go nowhere. We say yes, spend a Clanbrook. And they say that they get money. So we don't see when I talk about local government election, where people represent,
Right.
the new people who represent Clanbrook, discuss of them. So me don't know why they keep local government election and you get Clanbrook a pay tax, BI for pay tax, BI get 2 more bridges too. Right? And they can't make them bridge. So we say Clanbrook tax money, I go pay tax money, you go America go spend. So we don't see when then you get one up to man clean the trench, you get the Clanbrook come out. Will lead to the canal where you clean inside the trench about 10 feet broad, you bring up 5 feet broad and you not clean the come out for the water drain out faster in the trench with the farming area, water drain out. So we know we should have a way to go forward, backward or sideways.
All right, caller. Thank you for coming through. And as the caller rightly said, the local government elections were supposed to solve all of these problems as touted by APNU, AFC. The local government elections, and what happens after the local government election? Nothing happens. Remember the parking meter saga? People turning out in droves to protest that action by the council, that corrupt contract signed by the previous mayor. So nothing that these people tell us we cannot believe. All lies. Caller, good evening.
Hello, good night, Susan.
Good night.
You are doing a very good job. I enjoy you on your program.
Thank you.
What is bothering me is to know that no confidence motion has passed, and yet the government is still running the country as if nothing has happened. I want to know, they have so many brilliant judges. Barrett Jackson is a very educated man, and yet they can throw these people out. Yet they can do something to remove these people. Now they're still giving out contracts, which is illegal, as President, the former President Barrett Jackson said. They are squatting. If PPP won the election, what they going to do to these squatters that is carrying out contracts? They want to raise, they want to bring, they want to implement budget.
Right.
Middle of the year. What is this going on with us in Guyana? Graham and his group have no vision for Guyana.
And they want to bully the Guyanese people.
And this is too much because let me tell you, Susan, cost of living is very, very high. We cannot survive.
I know.
We are,
I know, caller.
We are dying slowly. So we sick, we can't afford the medication. Volkswagen has a lot, couple of millions to buy drugs for the hospital. I got a tooth to fill. This is 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
The machine at that hospital is down.
Yes.
It's not working. They cannot extract. They cannot fill. They cannot clean. Nothing.
Right.
The doctors there, they are working on a deplorable condition. They don't have gloves.
Mm-hmm.
You just imagine that.
Well, we have a minister of health who is not a doctor, who was an administrator in a school for over 20 years. She has no experience. She has no right holding that portfolio which she holds. And the Guyanese people continue to suffer. I tell you, I sometimes wonder how people are surviving in this country, how the ordinary people are surviving in this country.
Susan, please listen to me. I'm pleading with CCG to bring out the 12th of this month a proper ruling to let these people come out. We need them to come out. The heat is too much for the poor people.
Yes.
The poor people are feeling it more. And look, they want house registration. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now they want the youth. They want the 14 years and the 18 years. But when they going forward, where was the job for the 14 years and the 18 years?
All right.
They want the 14 years and the 18 years to vote for them now.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing for the 14 years? And
More lies and promises. They're suddenly interested in the youth vote again.
They're overdoing it. This is overbullying. And we can't take this anymore. We need to hit the streets. Okay?
All right, caller.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you very much for coming through. So, I hope that, you have, I see that I'm out of time. So I really hope that you stay inspired. And I hope that when the time comes that we all turn out and we get rid of this government. Their time is up. They have to go. The people of this country have suffered enough and they don't need to see anything more. If the president is as popular as he claims to be, call the elections. Let us go. Let us have fresh elections. And let us start to put Guyana first. We need to put Guyana first. We need to demand more. We deserve better as Guyanese. We deserve a government that serves us, the people, not themselves and their families and their friends. We have an illegal government. Make no mistake about that. The government of Guyana is illegal. Everything that they do is illegal. That is what we need to understand. They have no right to be there. There is no president. He's Mr. Granger. There are no ministers. There's no cabinet. They cannot bully us. They cannot bully their way to get what they want. They've done that enough. We have to say enough is enough. And all of these ministerial outreaches that they have going on, there are no ministers. No minister cannot come and speak to you. It is time for us to get serious. We have to exercise reasonableness and fairness as well. And if you truly examine what the APNU AFC is doing to this country, wearing away at our democracy, you will understand why it is important for us to get rid of them. I thank you for watching tonight, and I hope you join me again next week. Until then, stay safe. Good night.